Hello everyone, Morris and welcome to Things Invest. Talk about investing, finance, fresh development. For today's very terms only. The investment on topic today will be Ethereum ticker ETH. First, just want to say happy Thursday, everybody. A very great week, by the way. With respect to Ethereum, so we're recording of 9:46 a.m. on Eastern Time. Currently, $3,106, down about 3.36% so far. With respect to the sell-off that we're having across the whole entire market, with respect to the crypto market and the equity market, it's driven by a couple of factors, right? One is with respect to the interest rate that's spiking, with the foreshadow of the inflationary pressure stem from some of the media affectation around the Jackson Hole speech that's expected to debut by the end of this August, right? So we have to definitely watch with respect to how the needle is going to be moving going forward, right? What is the quantitative tightening plan or the tapering timeline looking like going forward, right? I think per Jerome Powell's depictions, about a couple months ago, he did say something about like 6 to 9 months out, right? So I think it's more like about 5 to 8 months out now because it has been a 1 month shift so far. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye out on it. In addition to that, with respect to some other news that we've been experiencing, collectively so far, I think collectively I would say we have a mixed bag of relatively negative news. And I would say these are more like trivial slash non-substantive type of negative news. But obviously, with negative news in general, obviously will drive some sell off across the market, right? About 50 minutes ago, on Decrypt, there was an article that talks about Archrich Digital. Is adding Ethereum DeFi tokens called DYDX onto its platform. So as we are experiencing so far, and based on our observations collectively, we are seeing a lot of new commerce platforms or digital exchange platforms that are implementing crypto into their value proposition, right? So obviously another global adoption, another step of approval of another obviously digital asset provider. Another one is coming from Decrypt again. Is talking about with respect to the difficult week that we've been experiencing across the whole crypto market. That it seems like Bitcoin and Ethereum, despite we are seeing some surging pressure, but it seems like we keep like doing this again, right? The ping pong effect, right? Bouncing up and down, trying to get above the next resistance level, but not enough to further propel, right? So it seems like it's been a difficult, struggle that we've been experiencing so far, right? Another one's coming from the Zynga about 3 hours ago, and this is a negative one, talking about with respect to Jack Dorsey's tweets, on his depictions during the exchange on the Twitter platform, talk about Ethereum as a scam, right? Basically trolling Ethereum as a crypto asset, right? As Jack Dorsey's a Bitcoin maximalist, and he's been playing around with respect to like Dogecoin, and obviously now he's playing around with Ethereum, which subsequently will drive some sell off, right? And that's one of the reasons why we are experiencing a relatively, I would say sizable sell off, about 3.5% so far, but it's also driven by the interest rate. With the foreshadow of the Jackson Hole speech that's coming out, basically, I would say about 2 weeks out from now. And then the other one coming from CoinDesk talking about Ethereum holds a long-term support ahead of the all-time high. So this is obviously a positive foreshadow type of an affectation, right? Talking about that we are sustaining above the $3,000, but technically the 2,750, right? Because 3,000 is not really a substantive level. That we are holding that level, which give us a lot of gravitas because we're building a new consolidation platform on the 3,150. So technically, all of the other platforms that are secondary or below are building more ground onto the the escalations that we're going to be building up going forward, right? So another great news on a technical perspective. And then the other one is talking about on Cointelegraph, is talking about a crypto gaming casino, right? As you know, Ethereum has been very popularized recently, and it seems like there was a network congestion with respect to Ethereum transaction times that temporarily crashed the site, right? So I guess it's just a massive adoption that with respect to these technological issues, it's still areas of improvement with respect to the long-term value proposition that we're looking for, right? Ethereum ultimately is still a technology or infrastructure that still needs to be further built upon. So with this congestion, it's just global adoption with some hiccups, if you may. So still positive news, but obviously something we have to be mindful of. And then that's pretty much it overall with respect to like the most relevant news in the last 12 hours so far. So I'm gonna go through a technical analysis with respect to the chart, knowing the fact that across the whole market we're selling off right now, and it seems like the MACD and the RSI are slowly depleting. So I'm going to take a look at the momentum right now to see, are we experiencing early stage of a sell-off right now? Should we be liquidating right now or look to buy a dip later on? So stay tuned, stick around, let's make some money. Moving on to the technical analysis for Ethereum ticket ETH, I'm recording of 9:54 a.m. on Eastern time. Currently like $3,099, down about 3.56% so far. You can see that with respect to the across market, right? You could see everything is red today because of the interest rate spike, basically foreshadowing something along the line with respect to quantitative tightening. So that's something that is something more of a macro perspective, right? But with respect to Ethereum, we are experiencing a little bit more sell-off as well because of the negative news been percolating so far, right? Obviously, with the scam, talking about that, we are hovering around the technical zone that we have identified so far, but it seems like it's struggling to get above it. And on top of the fact that we've been surging for the last, I would say, 16 to 17 days so far, that it needs to cool down a little bit, right? So in a technical perspective, you could see that we've been dragged up ever since basically the 20th, which was the end of the B word summit that incurred, and then subsequently got a lot of positive news, right, from JP Morgan talking about their offering to its corporate clients and the high net worth private wealth clients at the same time. Goldman Sachs expanding the crypto assets offering to the European side of the nation. And then we have obviously the negative news with respect to the infrastructure bills, the crypto bills that Don Bai is releasing, and with respect to Gary Gensler talking about crypto assets as a whole as some sort of like a scam or some sort of fraud activities, with these type of criminal activities, or adjective, as a to describe this as a whole. Obviously, we drive some sell off, and ever since that, we've just been collections of positive news day in and day out, internationally. Right, and now we are experiencing more of a hover, right? We're just kind of trading on a sideways fashion, bouncing between the levels of 2,950 to the highest, the 3,250, I would say, right? And that's the next level of substantiveness if you talk about the next zone, right? The 3,228 to be more specific. And the next zone is technically, if you leap above, is the 3,385, which as you can see, we never got there. So what we're going to be experiencing going forward is that we are going to be just keep hovering on a sideways fashion. And I think with the cross section that we should be forming soon, knowing the fact that we have a curvature on the MACD right now, RSI is slowly depleting right now. The momentum is slowing down. And on top of the fact, we have to remember that the weekend is coming, right? Tomorrow's Friday and Saturday. And contingent on no positive news, right? Because those are the blacks wild cards that we can never kind of predict, that the likelihood of actually selling back down a little bit to the 2,750 is more likely, right? So I think ideally, if you want to buy for a long term, for me, knowing the fact that I do have a relatively large position right now, 55 Ethereum right now, that cost average about like, at the hundreds, right? So I think I'll ideally wait until the 2,750, and ideally buy at the 2,450 as well. Those will be the levels that I would be dollar cost averaging. And I think with respect to the chart, we are cooling down, but we need to cool down even further. And I think we are experiencing that right now. So if you want to incur even higher risk level, 3,000 is not a bad level to buy at. And I think today might be a interesting level to dollar cost average. Maybe just put like 10% of your cash balance into it and then hold for a long term, because ultimately we're going to get to an all-time high, right? We're going to break above the all-time high. So it's something to be mindful of, right? And just to recap the numbers in the technical analysis, again, right, the 3,000 is, we're struggling at this level right now, but I do foresee some sort of like normalization coming, knowing the fact that we might be at the end stage or the mid stage of the euphoric zone at the moment, right? And I think with respect to euphoric zone, the next pump is going to be driven by some sort of like media affectation, right? Which is very obvious, right? And you're going to see a huge surge, ideally to hit maybe the 3,385 or 3,400. And then the sell-off will be relatively massive, right? But I think we might just have a normal course of cadence, right? We might just hover around the $3,000 level. And if you want to swing trade this, just know that you might don't hold your breath, because there's a likelihood that we might actually sell down to hit back to the low, below the $3,000 level to 2,750. And that's the level that I ideally want to be dollar cost averaging for myself. And ideally at 2,450. And I know we talked about like 2,150, right? That's a lot. That's basically like 6 resistance zones that we have to break through. And I think the likelihood will be relatively low. But long term wise, if you hold for a while, for 12 months out, 9,800, 3.3 times your money from here. So further, I respect my technical analysis on Ethereum ticket ETH. Hopefully this is helpful. I'm actually going to be out today. So I have meetings from like 2 p.m. all the way to 6:30 p.m. later today. So I'll actually be out in the city. So this is going to be my only video that I'm be posting today. But hopefully we have our marching orders. We have our methodology in play. We're going to think logically and be patient and wait for the zones to buy in. And that's how you're going to be, building the long-term wealth that you're looking for with the discipline and the right logics in play, right? So hopefully this is helpful. Despite me being out in the city, I still have my phone with me, right? So just feel free to give me a shout if you have any questions specifically. And stay tuned for what's coming up. Take care. Have a good day, guys.